This video is sponsored by Fantasy Football Hub. Improve your FPL game by getting access to extensive Opta data, fixture difficulty trackers, comparison tools, and comprehensive articles from the best FPL managers. Not to mention the members-only league with a £5,000 prize pool. I'll leave a link in the description box below, and you can use the code FPLTV for a 10% discount on membership. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fixture Watch, the series that uses the official FPL fixture difficulty ratings to determine which teams have a good or bad run of fixtures over the next 5 game weeks. As this is the opening episode of the Fixture Watch for the new season, we'll be looking at which teams have a nice start to their fixture list, before then looking at who's been given a much more difficult run of games. Sitting at the top of the FDR table, and therefore granted a kind start to the season, is Liverpool, who kick off their campaign with a seemingly juicy fixture at home to Norwich, before then facing Southampton, Burnley and Newcastle in 4 of the opening 5 games. Following a terrific season for the Reds last year, there's no doubt that their players would have been hot property in FPL regardless of their opening fixtures. However, if they had to play the likes of Man City and Spurs in the opening few weeks, I think we would have seen managers a bit more reluctant to double or triple up on their players, especially in defence. Fortunately, that's not the case, and Liverpool have been gifted a pretty nice run to start the season, which makes owning the maximum of 3 Liverpool players extremely tempting. They do face Arsenal in Gameweek 3, but at home last season they demolished the Gunners 5-1, not to mention Arsenal's shocking away record in general. What's very important to note about the Liverpool defence is that despite their hefty price tags of 6.5 to 7 million for Van Dijk, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, last season, excluding Eden Hazard who's now left, only 5 other players outscored them in the entire FPL game, and those were big hitters Salah, Mane, Sterling, Aubameyang and Aguero, all of whom are priced at 11 million and above this year. This shows their incredible value last season and really puts their price into perspective. So even if they can't achieve the same heights as last year, providing they get anywhere near that would still be excellent value for what you're spending on them. And this is why owning 2 for the long term does seem a viable decision. Of course, opting for 2 of their defenders does mean picking just one of Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, a tough choice certainly. However, with Mane having a short pre-season because of reaching the final of the African Cup, and with Mohamed Salah's superior underlying stats and assist potential, the extra 1 million for him does seem worth it in my opinion, but both great options nonetheless. The next team to have been gifted a very nice opening run of games is Merseyside rivals Everton, and notably, the Toffees are the only team in the league who avoid playing any of last year's top 6 in the opening 5 game weeks. Their first 5 fixtures are Crystal Palace, Watford, Aston Villa, Wolves and Bournemouth, which looks very decent from an FPL perspective. What I really like about Everton to begin the season is the longevity of their nice fixtures, because following these 5, they then face Sheffield United, Burnley, West Ham and Brighton in 4 of the next 5 weeks. And it's only their home fixture against Man City that looks poor in the opening 10 games. I believe this gives us 2 options with regards to Everton. You either trust them from the beginning and know that you've got a player to keep for the long term, or you've got the luxury to wait and see how they perform in the opening games, knowing that they still have a string of good fixtures to come, which gives you plenty of time to jump on a bit later. At 27% ownership, Luca Digne is by far the most popular Everton option, and understandably so. His underlying stats were astronomical last season. The left-back completed the most crosses of any defender, as well as creating the most chances, 20 more than the superb Andrew Robertson. Impressive stuff. However, I believe lots of managers are choosing Digne due to Everton's strong defensive performance at the back end of last season, where they kept 8 clean sheets in their last 11 games. What people may be forgetting though is that defence did include Kurt Zouma, a player who looks to be staying at Chelsea this season. In the last few days, Everton have also lost key defensive midfielder Idrissa Gana Gueye, so that does worry me in terms of clean sheet potential. Given their fixtures, Luca Digne could be an FPL gem to open the season, but if they can't keep clean sheets, I'm sure that 6 million will start to feel a lot more expensive. For this reason, I'm still torn on Luca Digne for the moment, but attacking options like Richarlison and Sigurdsson are both in my thinking. Another team who opened the season with favourable fixtures is last season's 14th place finishers Bournemouth. Granted, they do have to face Man City in Gameweek 3, which is a bit of a stumbling block if you're looking to double up on their players. However, similar to Everton, it's the longevity of their nice fixtures that make them very appealing. Not to mention the opening 2 games of the season, where they face newly promoted sides Sheffield United and Villa in back-to-back games. Despite finishing 14th last season, interestingly, Bournemouth were the league's highest scorers outside of the top 6, with 56 goals, further backing up what we already know, that the Cherries are a very attacking outfit, ideal from an FPL perspective. According to FPL, 5 of their opening 7 games have been given a difficulty rating of 2, so it's no wonder the dangerous duo of Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson are proving extremely popular to open the season. The downside to Bournemouth, however, is their defensive frailties, conceding a massive 70 goals in 38 games, a defensive record worsened only by relegated Fulham and Huddersfield last season. So that's something you may want to consider when opting for one of their defenders. The next team to have been given a decent opening start to the season is newly promoted Aston Villa. As mentioned, Everton are the only side to avoid the top 6 in the opening 5 weeks, so Villa's tough test comes in the opening game week away to Spurs, which definitely feels like a bit of a deterrent on buying their players. However, it's the nice run following this game that has me considering them. After playing Spurs in game week 1, they then play 3 of the next 4 at home against Bournemouth, Everton and West Ham. Furthermore, their following 2 home fixtures are Burnley and Brighton, so on paper an excellent run of home games to begin the season, and due to their budget-friendly price, that means you could rotate them in and out of your squad, utilising them only in these nice home games. It's yet to be seen how Villa will cope defensively in the Premier League, but they certainly tightened things up in the second half of last season when signing Tyrone Mings. So, given the nice fixtures, that could make their attacking defenders like Matt Targett or Frederick Gilbert potential options to consider. As for their attack, there's lots of options to pick from here, with McGinn, El Ghazi and Jack Grealish looking quite interesting. Also, following some impressive performances in pre-season, new signings Wesley and Jota are also both on my radar at a budget 6 million. Still pricey for promoted players, but considering their nice fixtures, potentially worth the punt. Other teams worth mentioning towards the top of the FDR table are firstly West Ham, who have a decent run following their nightmare opening fixture against Manchester City, Brighton, who boast 3 very nice looking home games in the opening 5, and also Chelsea, who face Premier League new boys Norwich and Sheffield United in back-to-back games. There's also Manchester City, who, let's face it, are essentially fixture-proof anyway. So let's now move towards the bottom of the FDR table and see which teams have been less fortunate with their opening sets of fixtures. And if you haven't already, be sure to get subscribed to FPL TV and hit the notification bell so you never miss an FPL TV upload. The first team with very unfortunate fixtures and sitting bottom of the FDR table is newly promoted Norwich City, who have to face 3 of last season's top 6, Liverpool, Chelsea and Man City in the opening 5 game weeks. The Canaries managed an impressive 93 goals in the Championship last season, the most scored by a Championship club since Bournemouth got 98 5 seasons ago. So it's a shame they've been given this rough set of fixtures, because clearly there's lots of goals here and some very interesting options in their ranks. During their promotion campaign, their striker Timo Pukki had a prolific season to say the least, bagging 29 goals and ending as the league's top scorer, as well as chipping in with 10 assists. Had it not been for these difficult fixtures, he may very well have made it into my starting FPL team, and although starting with him isn't necessarily the wrong move, for me I think I'd rather let them get these difficult games out of the way first and see how they cope during the opening weeks. Emiliano Buendia in midfield looks another very exciting prospect, as does their talented fullback Max Aarons, who at 4.5 million got 6 assists and 2 goals from right back last season. Again, the issue with opting for the likes of Max Aarons is that you want clean sheets from your defenders, and with these tough fixtures, and considering Norwich's attacking style of play, to begin the season, clean sheets do look very unlikely for the Canaries. The next team to begin the season with very tough fixtures is Newcastle United, who, similar to Norwich, face 3 of last season's top 6 in the opening 5 games. The Magpies face Arsenal on the opening day, before having difficult road trips to Spurs and Liverpool in the following 4 fixtures. The biggest attraction to me with regards to Newcastle was certainly Matt Ritchie at 5.5 million, who notably has now been reclassified as a defender in this year's FPL game. This reclassification was due to him being utilised as a wing-back under Rafa Benitez a lot last season, but now that Steve Bruce is in charge, we could see Ritchie move back into midfield, and therefore he becomes a very interesting out-of-position FPL option. Similar to Norwich though, it's a very hard sell to opt for Ritchie to begin the season. At 5.5 million, that's got to be classed as a premium price for a defender, and with such an abysmal run of fixtures, it's hard to see them keeping many clean sheets in the opening few weeks. There's also uncertainty on how they'll set up and play under Steve Bruce, so as much as I like Richie as an option, he's probably just one to wait and see for now, and who knows, perhaps he'll become a bargain later in the season. As a quick side note, during the recording of this episode, Matt Ritchie may have picked up an injury in pre-season, so bear that in mind. Another side who find themselves towards the bottom of the FDR table is Wolves, who on paper only have one favourable fixture in the opening 5 games, and that's at home to Burnley. The rest includes away trips to Leicester and Everton, along with home games against Man United and Chelsea. If we look back at how Wolves played last season, these opening 5 games actually wouldn't appear too bad for them, because it was often the bigger games where Wolverhampton really delivered. So, despite appearing to have a difficult fixture list, if we see the same Wolves as last year, then they could thrive in these opening few weeks, and that's definitely something to consider. What really creates a headache when considering their options though, is the fact that due to an excellent finish of 7th last season, they now have a grueling Europa League qualifying campaign to think about, which already started on the 25th of July. It's important to keep note of how Wolves proceed in these qualifying games, because if they do go all the way, then they'll have qualifying games close to all 4 of their opening Premier League fixtures. Potentially, they could be playing 3 days before Leicester, 4 days before United, 2 days before Burnley, and then 3 days before Everton. Definitely not ideal. I've no doubt that Wolves will continue to be an excellent source of value for us in FPL this season. But these circumstances definitely have me concerned about their options, because it's difficult to know how their minutes will get managed with so many games to think about. The final team to have been placed towards the bottom of the FDR table is Arsenal, and this is due to them having a very tough away trip to Anfield in Gameweek 3, followed directly by the North London derby in Gameweek 4. Now, just because Arsenal are placed towards the bottom of the FDR table doesn't mean you shouldn't be considering their options. In fact, arguably, their opening 2 games are up there with the best, facing a Newcastle side under Steve Bruce in Week 1, followed by a home fixture against Burnley in Game Week 2. It's also important to note that despite their poor defensive form last season, the Gunners still managed to score 73 goals, the 3rd highest amount behind only Liverpool and Manchester City, so there's definitely some points to be had here. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang ended as last season's highest scoring FPL forward, an impressive achievement. So, if you don't mind owning him through that difficult patch of game weeks 3 and 4, it could end up paying dividends in those opening 2 games. The downside for Arsenal is that they were significantly better at home than away last season, and with them opening their account with only 2 home games in the opening 5, one of which is an unpredictable game against Tottenham, there is an argument there to perhaps hold off for now. So that wraps up this season's first episode of the Fixture Watch. Hopefully you found it informative, and if so, be sure to drop a like on the video, and most importantly, get subscribed to FPL TV. A big thanks again to Fantasy Football Hub for sponsoring this video, and you can check out their website and get signed up following the link I've left in the description. FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all very soon.